Peace and blessings. Welcome to my channel. My name is Taj Utsi and I'm a certified financial coach. I am also the founder of True Financial Coaching, where our mission here is to educate, enlighten, and equip individuals with the financial literacy in order to get off of the rat wheel. What is the rat wheel? The rat wheel is when one is constantly financing things that go down in value for them, but up in value for the banks at the same time. How does one do that? One does that by constantly financing depreciating objects, constantly financing cars and cell phones and furniture, items that go down in value over time for you, but up in value for the banks. How is that? Because of interest. The same item that depreciates for the consumer, the banks are earning more money because of interest. So when one is constantly financing depreciating objects, then they continue to power the rat wheel. It's not until one wakes up and realizes that they are the rat that's keeping that wheel in motion, then they realize that, I got to stop doing the same thing, continuous cycle of financing depreciating objects and then wondering why I'm living paycheck to paycheck, can't get ahead. When they wake up and realize that, then they can begin to invest in themselves by doing what? By having to change your mindset at first, then create a plan to get off the rat wheel. And that's what we do here at True Financial Coaching. We help individuals to see that they are the rat on the wheel. Again, the wheel is only powered as long as the rat is in motion. So when one is constantly financing depreciating objects, then they constantly on that wheel, that cycle that seems like it's never going to end. But it's an end. It's an end to it, but it's up to the individual. So that's what we do. And that's what got me on here today, is just a thought that I had after a conversation with a colleague, co-worker of mine. And she had asked me the question a couple of days ago. She said, "Are you nervous?" And when she asked me that, I'm thinking like what you talking about? Am I nervous? Nervous for what? That's what I was wondering. I said, nervous? Why? And then she said, "You don't know?" I'm like, "Just tell me." So she finally said, with Trump. And I get it. She said with Trump, the 403B, she was talking about stocks is dropping, losing money, things of that nature. She was saying about that with the tariffs, the stock market. And I told her, no, I'm not nervous. Like, why should I be? And I had mentioned to her, I said, well, first of all, I stopped contributing to my 403B a while ago. She looked at me, said, yeah, I do my own thing. I told her, I do like my Roth, my traditional IRA. I have a brokerage account, but I stopped contributing to my 403B a while ago. And the reason why, I didn't tell her all that, but the reason why I had stopped contributing, because I didn't have the money to keep putting into it. And I get it with, putting aside money for the future, for retirement accounts. But when I was on the rat wheel, I didn't have any money to invest in my 403B because I was, like I said, living paycheck to paycheck. And that was because I was constantly financing, things that went down in value, financing cars. And that was pretty much it for me, financing cars and student loans. And I didn't have a budget. So I was unable to contribute like I would be able to now, like I'm able to now, even though I still don't contribute to my 403B because I do other things. But so, but I told her though, I said, no, I'm not nervous. I do other things outside of the 403B. I said, yeah, it took a hit, a paper loss, because you really don't lose money until you withdraw. If you withdraw at a loss, then that's when you have lost money. But until then, it's a paper loss, right? It's a paper loss. But as they say, the market always goes up. Stock market always goes up. In time, the market would always go up. So, I told her, look, I don't contribute it. I do my Roth IRA, traditional IRA. She said, how's that going? I told her, yeah, I took a hit. But I told her, I said, look, I don't have any debt. And when I said that, she looked like, you don't have any. She was like flabbergasted. She was at a loss for words. I said, no, I don't have any debt. I don't have credit card debt. I don't have car loans, no student loans. I told her the only thing I have is my mortgage, and I told her that'll be done before I'm retired. She couldn't believe it. She said, she said, you don't have no credit card, nothing? I said, nope, I don't have no debt except for my mortgage. And I told her that'll be paid off before I retire. And she still was looking like you would have thought like she like I had three heads or something. Because that's what I mean, how for some people debt is so common that you assume everybody has it. And it's not. It may be common, but it don't mean it's normal. So when I told her that, I said, life is not expensive. I told her, I said, life is not expensive when you don't have debt. And she was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. She said, you want some of my debt? I said, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want that in my life, but I told her that's why I'm able to retire. And, people like, and this is one of the few teachers I really talked to in depth about me and what I do. Like, she know I travel for my church. She know I got the True Financial going in my YouTube channel. She one of the few teachers I really talked to. So, when she said when you don't, she even said it. She said, yeah, when you don't have any debt, you're free to do what you want. I said, exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly right. You're free to do whatever you want. So she said, I need to sign up for one of your classes. I said, whenever you're ready. But this is my point. When people are so caught up in the U.S. economy and what's happening here in America, and I get it, right? This is impacting lives and it's impacting families with, these terrorists and a potential recession. But when the economy of you is in order, right? When the economy of you is in order, it don't matter what goes on outside of you, because there are people that have, all of us have, that have been around long enough. We went through 2008, 2020 with COVID and everything. But when your economy is not in order, then it is going to make these times like this difficult. It's going to make it difficult, and you will feel nervous, and you will feel that fear of the unknown. But when your economy is in order, when your financial house is structured, then anything outside of you, it really doesn't matter. You're going to feel a little hit, but you're not going to feel the impact like individuals that aren't financially stable, where you don't budget, where you have a lot of high interest debt, credit card debt, student loans and car loans and, things of that nature, payday loans, financing furniture. When you got all that going on in your life, when times like this are on the horizon, because they might be, I've heard, I've read, some say we may be in a recession already. We just don't even realize it, or a recession is coming for the U.S. So when these times happen, yeah, you may feel a little hit, but it's not a major impact because why? You did the work in the fat seasons. Now when the lean seasons are coming, you're still in good shape. You're in good shape. Why? Because you prepared. And there's a saying, he that fails to prepare prepares to fail. And that's what, like I said, this is what we do here at True Financial. We help you prepare for seasons that the financial pundits and gurus are predicting or even anticipating. So when you have a budget and you don't have debt and you have your emergency fund, you have your 3 to 6 months emergency, and you have when you have no debt, you can even build that emergency fund up to a year or 2 years. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on building my emergency fund up to 2 years, because it's just that gives you that cushion between life and being broke. So when she said, "Are you nervous?" It was like, no, I don't even think about it. I don't think about it. Why? Because I did the work. I did the work. And a time in the past, maybe, maybe. But like I said, what woke me up to get to this point was COVID, when I said, man, we were out of the schools were closed. We weren't working. We were doing the virtual learning, but at one point before virtual learning started, we weren't working, and thankfully we were still getting paid, because that woke me up and said, wait a minute, if I didn't still get a check, my whole life would have, from a financial aspect, would have been turned upside down. Would have been turned upside down. And this is what I mean about people having that consumer mindset and don't look at the long term. People get so caught up in having things now and financing things now, that down the line it won't mean nothing. It won't mean nothing. And I'm not saying, don't get nice things and whatever, but I'm not going to finance furniture. I'm not going to finance iPhones or Samsung, whatever. I'm not going to finance these depreciating objects when I can invest in myself. When I can invest in myself, pay off debt, build my emergency fund, contribute to my retirement, do those things. Do those things. And I don't mean deprive yourself of, things that you want to do now, but you incorporate that into your plan. You incorporate that into your plan, where you can still go on trips, but I'm not financing it. I don't got to put it on a credit card, and I go on a week or 2 week trip, and then 2 years down the line, I'm still paying for that trip. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But people do that. They go on trips for 2 weeks, charge it to a card, and then they still paying for it 2 years down the line. That doesn't make sense. At an interest rate. At an interest rate. But this is the mindset of millions of people. And this is why, like I said, when people see stock market dropping and they hear about tariffs and a recession and things of that nature, then they get in panic mode. You get in panic mode. And this is why I say you must first invest in yourself. Before we can invest in anything outside of ourselves, we must invest in ourselves. So that way, when the stock market drop, I'm not even thinking about it. It don't even matter. Like I said, I've invested in the stock market, but I don't got all my money in the stock market. No, put a certain percentage in the stock market. So when I see the stock fall, stocks falling, or what it's doing now, that roller coaster, it's like, okay, I'm not even thinking about it. Why? Because that's not where all my money is at, and also I'm looking at it from a long term, because the market always goes up. The stock market always goes up, and for many, that right now, just like you getting stocks on sale. You keep investing like you normally would doing. After you get out of debt and you got a plan, you keep doing that. It's like keeping, like you getting the stocks on sale. So it's not for me. It's not even a big thing. It's not a big thing. And again, but I did the work. I did the work where what's going on in the economy today doesn't affect my economy. The economy of me, and this is what we have to get into place. Get the economy of you in place first, and then when you get the economy of you, anything that goes on outside of you is just inconvenience. It's just an inconvenience. Why? Because I have my I have no debt. You have no debt. You have your emergency fund. You right now, it's just things that happen. Is just an inconvenience. Okay, it's not the end of the world where you have people pulling out all their money. They're pulling out all their money out of the stock market. And a lot of times when you pulling out your money early, you're pulling out at a loss. You're pulling out at a loss. But and a lot of people, I know teachers. I know teachers. They don't have anything liquid. A lot of liquid. Like when I say liquid, I mean like something like cash, whether it's in a high yield saving account, bank checking account, whatever. A lot of their monies are in the 403b nonprofit. It's like a 401k. Sitting tied up in the stock market. Had a colleague, he wanted to get some work done on his house or whatever. Didn't have the cash, so what he had to do, go into the 403b, take a loan out of the 403b to fix up, to do improvement on the bank's house. Because as I often say, when you have a mortgage, you don't own the home. You don't own the home. If you have a mortgage, you do not own the home. The property belongs to the bank. The property belongs to the bank. You are a loan owner. You are the property manager. The bank owns the home, because, as I often say, homeowners do not make payments. Homeowners don't make payments. So, but the individual, he's pulling money out of your 403b, stunting the growth. You're stunting growth. You're being double taxed now. Why? Because when you go to pay that money back, because this is what people say. They say, all right, I'm going to take the loan out, 403b, 401k loan, take the loan out, pay myself back with interest. This is what they say. This is what they say. For me, to me, that was all, didn't never really make sense to me. You're paying yourself back with interest. But the interest is the tax, is the penalty for not having the money. Because now you're paying back the loan with with post-tax dollars. Because when you first contributed to the 403b or the 401k, you were contributing with pre-tax dollars. But now you take a loan out, now you got to pay that money back with post-tax dollars. And now when you go later down the line to take out the distribution, now you're being taxed again on monies that you had contributed with post-tax dollars. It's a double tax. It's a double tax. So to paying yourself back with interest, that's the penalty for not having the money, for not being liquid. And people don't see that. They don't see that because I brought that to his attention. He didn't even see it. He didn't even see it. And this is what I mean about the program. It's a program where people are so just blinded by the noise around them that they can't even see that they're the whack on the wheel. They don't even see it. They don't even see it. And then they wondering why I can't, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, wondering why I can't retire when I want to retire. I got to retire when a system tells me to retire. And that's not so. It don't have to be like that. As I said before, and I'll say it again, retirement is not an age. 62 years old, retirement is a program. That's a program. You can retire whenever you want, but you can't retire with debt because although you may be retired from that job, that debt ain't retired. That debt is not retired. So when like I said, when that colleague of mine said, "Are you nervous?" I didn't even blink an eye. Nervous at what? Nervous about what? And I really didn't know what she was talking about. I thought she was talking about me taking days off of work because I've been taking so many days off of work, like you said, because like this is my last year. This is my last year of working with the school district of Philadelphia, so I got to use up my time. So I'm thinking when she said, "Are you nervous?" And even with that, I was like, "No, why I'm nervous about that? What they gonna fire me?" She's like, "No, I'm not talking about that. What are you talking about? You don't know what I'm? No, I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Just tell me." And she told me it's like I'm not even thinking about that. I'm not even thinking about that. Not even thinking about that. Why? Because I I laid the foundation. I laid the foundation. I did the work. Like I said, I got on a budget. And again, a budget is not restriction. A budget is just telling your monies what to do, where to go, instead of wondering where they went. Got on the budget, got out of debt, eliminated my debt, and I was looking at, just I like to go back and look at some stuff that I did in the past, and I'm gonna share that in one of my videos. All my documents, things I wrote down, and just to see where God has brought me from with my personal finances. And I was just looking back, August of 2020 when I first started my journey, had all my debts. I even made my own little steps of like how to do things. Like you said, Dave Ramsey got his baby steps. I had did my own little steps, just something to motivate me, keep me focused. And I even put, I put this, said, God willing, I'll be debt free by the age of 50. And that's what I put. I made a note of that. And this is what I'm saying. You got to write your vision down because otherwise it's going to be a passing thought. You write it down and you meditate on it. You look and you read it. Keep journals. I journal when I'm fasting. I write down what I'm fasting for. I do these things so that way I can read it during my journey. Look back and see, wow. But I did the work. Eliminated my debt, built my emergency fund up. Now I can invest outside of me. Why? Because I invested in me. I invested in me. I invest outside of me now because I invested in me then. And I'm still investing in me. See, nobody is going to invest in the business of you like you will. And if you don't believe in yourself, how can you get others to believe in you and what you want to do? So you got to do the work. You got to do the work. And I tell people, I was thinking like people want to go into business with other people, and that's all good. You want to go into business with other people, fine, that's all good. But what I recommend before you go into business with anybody, look, I need to see your personal credit report. And that may sound crazy, but I'm serious because I was talking to someone recently and they were saying, how they wanted to go into business. Good, all well and good. But I always say, how are you handling the business of you first before you go into a business outside of you? Because what tends to happen, and it's not in all cases, but what tends to happen is that a lot of people, right, when they go into a business, and what they do is they carry those same habits, those same patterns, those same tendencies that they use in their personal finances. That all that does is carry right over to the business side. So, as I said, before you even think about going into a business with anybody, I need to see your personal credit report, not your credit score. Credit score, that don't really mean nothing. That's just a I love debt score indicator that you love debt, right? The bureaus give you more points for being in more debt and how well you pay your debt, whatever. But I want to see the credit report, meaning what are the items, what are the businesses that own a piece of the business of you. I need to see that because again, if you got a whole bunch of credit card payment, credit card debt on your credit report, I'm not going. No, I'm going to be hesitant. See why? Because I understand that when people go into business, a lot of times, yeah, you want to make money for your services, but that shouldn't be the the goal, right? Is to make money. No, the goal is to provide a service that's going to help individuals. That's the goal, is to provide a service that will benefit or impact the lives of people. And as a result of that, providing that service, then the money will come. Don't, but you're not in it for the money. But when you got a lot of debt, all you thinking about, all in most cases, all people tend to look at is that dollar. And when you have that mindset, then mm, yeah, that's not who I want to do business with, who I would want to do business with. So again, first things first, get the business of you in order, get your personal finances in order, get the economy of you in order. And then you won't have to worry about the economy outside of you. Like I said, yeah, I get it. Like, with everything that's going on in politics in the U.S. with Trump and everything, I get it, right? And I understand lives are being impacted. I do. And I'm in no wise diminishing what is happening to the lives of people getting laid off, things of that nature. I'm no wise diminishing that or even blaming anybody for that. But this is why, again, it's so important to get your personal finances in order, because you don't know what life will bring. You never know. You never know. And when life happens, because I'm like that little pig that used brick instead of straw, right? Instead of wood or whatever it was, right? He used the brick so that when the wolf came, his house stood. And I say that when you have your financial house in order, when you laid the foundation by creating a budget, when you laid every stone in place, you got your four walls intact, right? Your four walls, and you got your roof intact. Four walls, the necessities in life. You got those things, housing, your transportation, your utilities. When everything is in order, then when life happens, okay, it's a little inconvenience, but my house is still standing. My house is still standing. And for many, unfortunately, they didn't prepare. They didn't prepare. They didn't prepare. And like I said, when you fail to prepare, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You prepare to fail. Life doesn't have to be where you just always living paycheck to paycheck. It don't have to be like that. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like. But life doesn't have to be like that. So as I often say, if you're ready to get off the rat wheel, you're ready to invest in yourself, you're ready to get your financial house in order, come visit me at truefincoaching.com. Schedule your consultation. We can see how we can help you out so you can become free to do what you want when you want instead of having to do the things that you don't want. Peace and blessings.